10. I really wanted to be, but I don't know if you guys already did the self-introduction part, so everybody knows everybody at this point, so I'm late to that party too. But my name is Sarah Snyder. I manage media and technology at the Smithsonian American Art Museum, and I've been having fun with the Wikipedia community in person and online since 2011 at the Smithsonian. So really happy to be here today. And the part that I missed, I know many of you, but there's some of you I don't know. So maybe if you don't work at the Smithsonian and you're not a Wikimedia DC key person that I already know, if we could just sort of say who you are. And I'm also wondering what your level of Wikipedia experience is, and if, especially for people who are looking for a little bit of new or recent user tutorial information, of what you'd like to get out of any instruction today. So I know these four right here. So
sure. I'm Dina Herbert. I'm at the National Archives. I'm going to be the coordinator of the Yet to Be Open to Public Innovation Hub. So we're going to be working with Wikipedia, and some people know Dominic with their parts.
I was just in there last weekend.
Yeah, I did not go to that event. So
yeah.
Are you the new hire?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for running the hub.
Yes. So we're still working. There are a lot of kinks that we have to work out with the hub. We're not quite ready to open to the public, other than a special thing on Saturday. But excited. I have no Wikipedia experience other than my own sort of reading. I've never done writing and editing, so I'm excited to start that sort of aspect of this.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, we're so glad you're
Yeah.
joining Era.
Can you write down the link to the slides just so I can
Sure.
figure it out? I'm sorry.
It's actually it's easier to search for it probably than to write.
Good.
It's SlideShare.
Sarah Snyder.
Yeah. I've done
Awesome.
many versions of this thing. I'm pulling up the one from the APA.
I'm going to pull it up and tweet it out.
Okay. Thank you.
Sarah.
I'm Allison McCauley. I am a web developer contractor at the Department of Commerce. I am like a longtime user, first time editor, learner person. I can't stay for super long today, but I really wanted to get introduced to this and learn whatever I can for a little while. And I'm also organizing a Women in Technology edit-a-thon in April. So that's the other.
I need your card. I will give you my card.
That's what I'm working at.
Looping in the Tech Lady Mafia.
Yeah, Tech Lady Mafia and then Hear Me Code group and some other people. I am beyond excited to be here.
And Shannon's been involved with other stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for this.
I apologize, Sarah. I misunderstood your name when you first said it, and I overheard it. There are so many people that you meet on Wikipedia. I'm Tree or Doc Tree. Yeah, there are quite a few Sarahs. Tree or Doc Tree. I've been editing actively for a few years. Have a few articles under my belt, and my big intent today was to learn how to access information in the SI archives, especially things that I know have to be there from what I can see, but that I can't find.
Oh, hi, Diane Shaw, and I'm in the Smithsonian Library, Special Collections Yearbook Cataloger, and I've been editing as Uncommon Preliminary for about 3 years, but I still feel I don't know all the Wikipedia tricks. And I am on the board of Wikimedia DC.
Okay, Douglas McCall. I'm an intern down at SCILDA, the Smithsonian Center for Learning and Digital Access. And I'm pretty much new to wikis. I've inherited our SI gaming wiki though. So I do a little bit of that.
Okay. Is that a media wiki?
It's a Wikia.
Okay. It's public.
Okay.
Yeah. Same software.
So it is the same software.
Different
My
flavor.
name is Shayla Kelly, and I'm also a skilled intern, and I'm playing with illustrating, drafting.
You lucky people get to work with Darren.
Yes.
And I'm Erin Ryan. I'm Astro_Erin on Wikipedia. I haven't actually done anything on Wikipedia yet. But I work at NASA Goddard, and I'm kind of tied into the Space Tweeps community, so I've been involved with the wiki for NASA Socials that we've had running. So I'm used to a little bit of the syntax and editing, but kind of beginner and Google often.
Yeah, you're halfway there. Well, so it looks like we've got 5 new editors and more than that in terms of experienced editors. So in a way, like, you don't need me at all. You could just pair up with an experienced editor and work your way through. But I'll do my spiel anyway and just sort of get you oriented as to kind of the main things that I think are helpful to know getting started with Wikipedia. So worth repeating that Wikipedia is the free encyclopedia, and it's free in more than one sense of that word. Everything on Wikipedia that you see is freely licensed for reuse with no restrictions, including no restrictions on commercial use. So that's a really important value that the community holds, is free licensed content. All of the written work that you see on Wikipedia was created and is maintained by volunteers. It's another really important feature of this community. There are no paid editors. All the editors are doing this on a volunteer basis, and they're doing it in this collaborative way. There's not like one, boss editor of any article. In fact, it's a very important principle that nobody really owns a particular article or area of content. Anybody can edit it. It's truly anybody. Wikipedia, and like most Wikimedia projects, is a non-profit, educationally driven project. This is also a really important feature, and it's what makes it easy for places like the Smithsonian to work with Wikipedia. Is like we share the same values. We're not here to sell ads. We're not here to sell anything. We're here to provide high quality educational information to the public for free. So our values are definitely aligned in the museum, library, archives world with the Wikimedia world. And the encyclopedia itself, Wikipedia is the best known and most popular of Wikimedia's many educational projects. All of the edits and versions that you see of the encyclopedia are recorded indefinitely, which is great because it means you can't break it. If you change something, you can always roll back or revert. So it's like anybody who's worked with wikis or content management systems knows they can usually have some kind of record of past versions that you can roll back to. So it should, I hope, give you confidence when making edits that if you mess it up, you can always go back, and somebody might even do you the favor of helping you go back to the previous version if you blank the page or whatever. So this is definitely an out-of-date statistic because every day there are new articles, and I don't know if there are new languages added, but we're still at 287. But it's safe to say Wikipedia is by far and away the largest encyclopedia ever written by humankind, and it's definitely the most popular and accessible. So if you're a person growing up enjoyed a good Britannica or World Book, it's very exciting and empowering to be able to be part of creating such a resource for future generations. Okay, so really germane to the question of, especially when we're adding women or underrepresented subjects on Wikipedia, understand what Wikipedia calls notability, the criteria by which they allow or recommend a subject on an article, right? So notability criteria are well documented. If a person or a topic has significant coverage in reliable sources independent of the subject, then they can be deemed notable. So if the New York Times writes profiles of me and someone else does a biography of me, or people focus on me as a public figure, I may be notable. If I write a blog about myself, about how great I am, that is not an independent source or coverage that's independent of the subject. So that probably isn't something that's going to count towards my notability requirements. So this is something to consider when you're looking at writing about women. What are the sources? And I think we can make a pretty successful argument that if you are included in the Smithsonian Institution archives, your papers have been archived in perpetuity because of your significant contributions to your subject matter. That's a pretty strong argument for Wikipedia notability. And certainly that it helps that the archives publishes their findings and records that show papers are in the archives of the Smithsonian. So I feel like if we're picking anybody off a list of people who are in the archives here, it's a safe bet. But there are other sources you can turn to talk about notability, especially of women and their contributions to science. So it's great to have subject matter experts and librarians in the room who can help with finding the right sources that meet that criteria. Just a few things about the kind of content standards on Wikipedia in general, some ideals that are held very dear to Wikipedians. the idea of a neutral point of view, that you need to make sure an article is balanced in the way that it presents a subject. Now, anybody who's thought critically about how matter is produced and published knows that there's no true neutrality. There's always going to be a little bit of spin. There's always going to be a little bit of negotiation. And in Wikipedia, where we have an editing community that is not proportionally representative of the world's population, we need to be looking out for systemic bias that may have crept in, inadvertently, or probably not as much intentionally, but things get left out and things get misstated, and it's good to be keeping an eye out for those things, since neutrality is really, really important. This encyclopedic tone of staying really, really neutral. Also, verifiability is super important. I alluded to this having published sources and secondary literature that indicate the notability of a subject. You also need to back up your statements of fact with a source, right? So everybody's seen a Wikipedia article that has like that little citation needed tag next to a paragraph or a fact, and that's where verifiability, it becomes visible. You can't just say it because you know it in your head to be true. You have to say it because somebody else said it and published it, and it's the consensus around the knowledge around this topic or person. So citing sources is a really important thing to do on the encyclopedia, and kind of at the end today we'll look at the tools that the encyclopedia gives you to help you make it easier to cite your source for things. No original research. Again, this is sort of Wikipedia speak for just because you know it to be true because you've seen it with your own eyes isn't enough. You need to cite a source. So if you've got some unpublished data that you've been doing in your scientific field, or you have an opinion on something, or there's speculation, it's not really appropriate to include that on Wikipedia, but it can go somewhere else. Assume good faith towards other editors. So Wikipedia is a tool, right? It's a place where things get done. It's also a very vibrant community full of very smart, very opinionated people who do great work. So it's good to go into a community like that, assuming good faith. People may revert your edit, and that's okay. That's a normal part of the process. Don't assume they're out to get you, or that they hate women scientists, or go into it with an open mind. And if you do get reverted, or you find that somebody pushes back against something you say, just consider that the beginning of a dialogue. Okay? What's the reason they cited for rolling back your edit or not, or taking your article down? And then pursue, using Wikipedia's sort of standard methods, a conversation around that, and hopefully reach a consensus that will leave everybody feeling good about the encyclopedia being better at the end of the process. And then finally, conflict of interest. So this is a concern for people who may be working in an organization or be related to somebody who's on Wikipedia. It's very tempting because you know a lot about a subject to go in there and tweak it. Or sometimes you get asked to do so. I have been asked by my boss to fix her Wikipedia biography, and I had to say, I can't do that. This is one of those hard lines that I feel like I shouldn't cross in terms of conflict of interest. Now, can I edit an article related in some way to the place where I work? It depends. I mean, it's kind of a gray area. I choose to disclose my identity on Wikipedia. You don't have to, but I do, as a way of helping people understand where my interest lies, so that they can be aware of whether or not I'm in conflict. And as Dominic likes to say, having an interest doesn't mean you have a conflict of interest. And certainly, it's better to work on articles in which you are interested and you have true expertise. It's just a matter of making sure what you add is neutral, verifiable, appropriate for the encyclopedia, and really makes the article better. So there's a jillion other policies and principles and unofficial rules, including the rule that there are no rules. I mean, there's a lot of documentation about Wikipedia on Wikipedia, and if you want to go down that rabbit hole, or you have a specific notability question you want to pursue, one of my favorite tips for finding information about Wikipedia on Wikipedia has to do with the way you use the search box. So the search box on Wikipedia, when you're just up there in the encyclopedia, by default, if you put in a word like notability, it's going to take you to the Wikipedia article about that subject. It's not going to give you that kind of meta level community information. But the way to get to that community information is to put a little prefix in the search box. You put Wikipedia : or even shorter, you could just say WP : and then notability or harassment or whatever your question is. Putting that WP : in front in the search box just searches the Wikipedia names, but the Wikipedia about Wikipedia on Wikipedia that's hidden from the public, I would say, kind of intentionally to make sure that people who are looking for encyclopedia articles don't accidentally stumble into like a million pages of process. Yeah, don't see the sausage being made unless they want to. So you're here because you want to know how the sausage is made. So remember that hack, I guess, to put WP : before your search whenever you're looking for community guidelines, policies, etc. And this presentation is online, and all of these links to go to the actual places on Wikipedia where information is stored. So if you want to check back on things later, it's all out there. I'm just going to say a quick note about Wiki Projects. I was delighted the day I found out about them because I wondered, like, how come certain areas of the encyclopedia were so well done, like very comprehensive, well coordinated, beautifully illustrated, and I think some of that has to do with like very active Wiki projects. Like, you got people who are super invested in a topic, and they band together and they talk, you know, kind of in their various channels on Wikipedia, using listservs, using IRC chat. They coordinate their efforts, and that's fun. So. And this is just an example of some of the diverse real-world Wiki projects that are out there. Wiki Project Women Scientists, which was alluded to earlier, is a popular Wiki project, and there are some that are really huge, like Wiki Project Medicine and things like that. Really high stakes, well-coordinated subjects. You know, I think there's a little bit, speaking of systemic bias, there's a little bit more. There's better science coverage and technology coverage on Wikipedia than there is arts coverage. So I work in an art museum, and I'm always running into like, gosh, there's a Wiki Project Visual Arts, and there is a Wiki Project Women Artists, but they're not as well tended as some of the stuff on the science side, and that may have to do with the makeup of editors and sort of natural technical inclination of many of the community members. But I don't know. We'll get there.
Yes, and also since it's my job to study this kind of thing, it's also a matter of the fact that the tools for organizing people aren't really there. But thankfully, I'm working on that. Would you like to volunteer at a Wiki project?
That is good news.
Racer X speaks up. So.
Yeah, I love this guy.
Right, so if you have a particular subject or topic of interest, then those of us who've been around can help you connect with the right Wiki project so you can be in the loop with the other Wikipedians who share your interests.
Yeah, that's a really important area to keep developing. So also going to give a little shout out to Glam Wiki, which is excuse me, it's a Wiki project, but it's a community of people who work in galleries, libraries, archives, and museums. And galleries here is like in the European sense, or like the National Gallery sense, rather than commercial galleries. But collectively, they're known as Glam, and the Glam Wiki folks are really active on social media. They coordinate a lot of events and talk at conferences within that world. So if you are in that world, they're a great network to connect with. So I won't spend too much time on Glams. All right, let's get into articles themselves. So everyone has read Wikipedia, but have we read it with the critical eye towards the components that make up any given article? So I pulled out an article here on an artist named Louise Nevelson, and right off the bat, the thing I want to point out about this article, it's got this little green, what is that thing? Plus? Cross? Mm-hmm. This
Circle of Love.
The Circle of Love indicates that this article has been vetted and reviewed and is a good article. It's a GA on Wikipedia standards. There's actually this whole peer review process behind Wikipedia where people are evaluating articles to find out which are of the very highest quality, and they get special recognition. So always look in the upper right corner and see if you've got a little symbol there. If you see a star, that's featured, right? If you see a star, that means that article has at one time been on the front page of Wikipedia, that's the highest honor you can be paid. So in addition to you,
is that a new thing? I don't remember seeing.
No,
articles
featured have been around.
Green. I mean, putting them in actually in the articles is new as of like 5 or 6 years ago. I think the good article process has been around since like 2007 or so.
and you can actually get to lists of like all the good articles in Wikipedia, all the featured articles. So when I'm creating a new article and I want to know like what's the standard I should be writing to, and I look for genre conventions within biography or within a certain topic, I always like to review what articles have been bestowed with good article or featured article status in that area. So up here on the top, these are our tabs, and just right off the bat, article is what you're defaulted to and read. But there's also, every article has this little tab next to it called Talk. And that's basically like, it's like a Facebook wall for the article, but with the new content at the bottom.
Message board.
It's a message board. Can I say that?
Don't say Facebook.
Okay, don't quote
That'll
me.
irk people.
Well, people on the internet, don't be irked. I'm trying to create an analogy. It's a place to talk about the article. It's like a message board. That's what we had back in the day.
Yes.
Um,
See, we're stuck in the 90s. You know, we
but
don't want
you've
to
revealed yourself as a 90s person. But on the top page, an important thing to know is that the new information is at the very bottom. So it sort of inverts the sort of blog expectation. The new stuff's at the top. It's at the bottom. It's no problem. Just scroll down. So top pages are great because you can see all of the community dialogue that's been happening around, in this case, Louise Nevelson, since her article was created. There's also usually like other kind of metadata about the status of the article there, what Wiki Projects it's a part of, its quality ranking. There's really good stuff usually on the top page. So just right off the bat, knowing to click on the top tab helps you understand what's going on with an article. A totally empty top page is also, should probably tell you something, that this article maybe has not been either given a ton of attention or love, or maybe it's not been controversial at all, or maybe there's been intense controversy. It's a place where you can start getting information about what's going on with the article. And then the second set of tabs over here, read, edit source. I think maybe depending on how you've set up your preferences, you may just see one edit tab. If you've turned on the visual editor, you see two. So this is something we'll talk about in a minute. But you'll see some option for editing here. And then viewing history. View history is the other really important place you can go to figure out, like, what's the deal with this article? Who's added to it? When? What did they write? How has it changed over time? When was it created? All the usernames or the IP addresses of the people who contributed to that article are listed there. And you can compare two different edits, see what's going on. It's just a really rich place to gather information, again, about what's going on with this article. So if you take nothing else away today than like the ability to browse through those tabs and know what they mean, you're already ahead of the game in terms of understanding this resource. But it's also going to be an important tool when you're trying to contribute to an existing article. All right, so there's some style conventions that you'll notice about articles. And again, if you're not sure what you're supposed to do, look at a good article or featured article to see how they handle it. But you have your name of the article up here at the top. That's your title. And next to each section, each header, there's another option to edit if you just want to edit that section. When you click this edit up at the top, it's going to edit the whole page. We only use boldface in the first paragraph, this lead, it's called the lead set of paragraphs, to repeat the name of the article or the person. We don't add bold through the style, stylistically throughout the body of the article. And then this thing over on the right is called an info box. I really love info boxes for a lot of reasons. I think it's really kind of crazy about them. It's probably like my secret library inside because they're structured data under there. And so actually, not only do they create a nice little display that can allow you to kind of easily get a summary of what's going on with an article or a person, they have features that allow the data to be extracted in a way and reused. So that's like part of their like extra fun, nerdy benefit. And it's just very satisfying to create them too. I feel like an article looks a lot better once you got an info box in there. But this is maybe controversial because I've heard there are some corners of Wikipedia where they hate info boxes.
Yes.
Like Opera.
Opera. Classical
Wiki
music
Project
people
Opera, yeah.
don't like the reductive quality of the info box.
Right.
You can't just cram everything into these. People who like organized things. And just the thing about the table of contents that I wanted to point out, table of contents within an article get generated kind of automatically based on the headings the structured headings that you apply within the article, which is a really nice, handy thing. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, or if I need to expand on any topics here. So here's an example of a heading. This is a level 2 heading. These are level 3 headings, and those get sort of sucked up into the table of contents to show the structure of the article. So there are a lot of links within the body of this particular article, and these are all wiki links to other Wikipedia articles. Another stylistic convention of Wikipedia, we don't link to external websites in the body of the text. Every link in a Wikipedia article should point to another Wikipedia article. This link right here is red, and what that means is a wiki link has been added to an article that does not exist. It may not exist because it hasn't been created yet, and it should be, or it may not exist because maybe it may or may not be appropriate to create this article, but someone has put a link around here, put a wiki link around here as kind of a prompt to others, be like, hey, you guys, we probably should make an article about this. So some people go around looking at red links and creating articles to help flesh it out. So if you see a red link, that just means it's not pointing at anything that exists yet. A very easy way to create an article is to red link something and then click on it, and then we've started working on an article on that with that name. This is a good article, it has lots of footnotes. Another interesting thing about footnotes, and I'll show you on the next slide. So here are the footnotes for this article down at the bottom, and a notes section. Sometimes it's called notes, sometimes it's called references.
Or sources.
Or sources. So find a good article or an article you admire and do what they did. But an interesting thing about this, even though they display down in the bottom of the page, the actual reference, like the information, this whole citation here is up in the body next to the fact that it's verifying. So even though it'll just look like a little number 1, and then it comes down to this one, you're entering the data in the body next to that paragraph. So this confused me when I first started editing, because I would go down to the bottom, like, I need to fix this footnote. It's, the link's broken, and I'd scroll down to the bottom, and I couldn't find it. And it's because it lives in the body next to the fact that it's verifying. And there's other things like related articles. That's where you point to other Wikipedia articles that aren't already linked to in the body that are tangential or related to the topic. References, other books you might have read that don't have a footnote citation. Further reading, this is where I think libraries can add a lot, making sort of recommended resources on this topic if you want to go further. And then finally come the external links. And this is where you're allowed to link out to websites that are not Wikipedia. There should be external links that provide some additional value to somebody who wants to research this topic. And I've heard from a number of college students over the years that they'll start their research on Google, and then they'll go to Wikipedia, and they'll actually figure out what the topic's about, and then they'll scroll down at the bottom to look for sources that they can use in their paper, since they're not allowed to use Wikipedia in their paper. So this is kind of a crib sheet that we're providing value for the lazy students, for the curious information-seeking students who want to know where can I find really verifiable, high-quality information that goes a little deeper beyond just an encyclopedic summary. So we're helping increase and diffuse knowledge, I feel, when we enhance the end of an article. All right. So that was the intro to the anatomy of an article. When we edit Wikipedia, a couple words about user accounts. I like to recommend registering an account, but you certainly don't have to. You could edit anonymously. Anybody can edit Wikipedia. But I think some advantages accrue to you when you register a user account that are pretty great. For one, you get a record of your work, so you can go back and see what you've worked on before. The community also has a record of your work. Everything on Wikipedia is public. So the fact that you have worked on things diligently over time helps kind of build your reputation in the community. So the first thing, when you make an edit and someone else is questioning it, probably what they're going to do is look at you and your edit history to kind of get a sense of whether you're really a participating member of the community, how long you've been around, and frankly, how many articles you've written, or contributed to. They're looking at you to kind of evaluate whether you're just sort of a fly-by-night, graffiti artist who's just trying to put your name on a wall versus somebody who's actually working as part of the community. Also, when you don't register an account, your IP address is recorded. And in terms of privacy, it's really, you're revealing more by revealing your exact location and your computer's IP address, I think, than if you just create a handle for yourself, which kind of gives you a little more anonymity. And this is how people get caught doing really stupid things, like certain police departments or governments we might mention in the near vicinity, where people, update their senator's article based on things that his press office is providing, and it's clearly traceable back to Capitol Hill. So if you edit anonymously by IP and you're doing things you're not supposed to do, people are going to call you out on it immediately. So, of course, no one here would do that, so we don't have to worry about people making edits they should not make. And then the other benefits you get, you're able to create and rename articles, you can upload images, you can edit preferences, you can do a lot to customize your experience when you register an account. And it finally just signals to the community that you consider yourself a member of it. So as I said, I choose to edit under my real name, but you certainly don't have to. So whatever your feelings about internet privacy and identity are, just keep doing what you do. You don't have to reveal yourself in any way in order to participate. Also, this is a really important point too about the stated policy of a 1-to-1 ratio between editors and accounts. I, as an editor, should have one account. I should not create multiple accounts with different names so as to work on lots of different fronts or have conversations where I agree with myself or boast my own argument. That's frowned upon on Wikipedia. They want you to just pick a username and stick with it. Similarly, they do not want you to create a shared username. So this is definitely a problem in organizations. We will just assume, oh, we'll make this account. It'll be called Smithsonian, or what if some of them haven't seen Smithsonian PR? That one won't raise any red flags. And then, obviously it's a group account. Obviously it's got a point of view that is not neutral. Like we're promoting things. So don't do that. Don't share accounts amongst people. The community is about you and your individual contributions. Even if you're talking about something related to your work, do it as yourself. And yourself can be as funny or weird to handle as you want. It doesn't have to be like your true self, but your Wikipedia self should just be one self. Okay, so once we've registered an account, has everyone registered an account? Yeah, we're all registered? Okay, so you have an account, great. How many new accounts did we register today? Raise your hand if you registered an account today.
Registered at least before
I think we
yesterday.
tried to do it a couple days ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
This week, registered this week. Okay. Okay, great. So that's done. So the other thing that I like to recommend for people who are starting new is to turn on the visual editor. It's the WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get sort of editor. It's a new feature. And to me, I may get disagreement from longtime Wikipedians, but to me, this is like learning to drive an automatic transmission before you learn to drive the stick, which is how I learned to drive a car. Now, people who learn to drive stick directly, like they remember that, like maybe they're better people for having gone through the hard work of installing out
on a hill. Oh yeah, in the Colorado mountains.
On hills.
Oh yeah.
So, but while you're still like trying to figure out like how to check your mirrors and how to do all those other things, like I kind of feel like, all right, if you take the extra pressure of shifting off just to get till you get comfortable with sort of how to drive a car, then later you can add on the extra work of a manual transmission. There's another analogy for you. So the visual editor is the WYSIWYG editor that allows you to edit Wikipedia without needing to know wiki markup. And wiki markup, or the MediaWiki specific markup, MediaWiki being the software that runs Wikipedia, it's not that hard, especially if you've done any kind of little bit of HTML or other kinds of coding. It's pretty simple. And if you like looking at that kind of thing, you don't mind a square bracket, it can be kind of fun. If you are not into that kind of thing, you can choose to not have to look at it. And that's what the visual editor does for you. So visual editor is really good for very simple things that you want to do fast, have to do with content and formatting, and you don't really want to, if you just don't want to look at square brackets. So if you go into the preferences link and go to the, I think it's beta feature, maybe it's still called beta features?
It's under, yeah, beta.
Beta, okay, under beta. The only constant is change in your set of beta features. Check the box to turn on visual editor. It just gives you another option. Okay, so step 3. I don't know if you guys have done this yet. At the top of your page, you should see a link that says your username, and click on that link. If you have not ever put anything in your user page before, you can do something like write an intro sentence or do your hello world or whatever. And then click show preview, so that will show you what it's going to look like when it's published. And then you can click save. Now, when we edit, usually we leave an edit summary, always some little note to the people who come behind us to know what we did. If you're on your own user page, probably no one's going to pay any attention to your edit summaries, but it's good. It's a good habit to keep a little note in the edit summary box of what you did. And then I have an example here, may not apply to folks here today, depending on whether you're going to work on something that's closely related to your work, where you can put an actual conflict of interest statement and say, okay, I work here, I may edit articles related to the place that I work, but I'm very aware of the conflict of interest guidelines, and don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions or you have any concerns about what I'm doing. Kind of a full disclosure, this is a community that values honesty and openness, and I like to state boldly that I am going to be an open and honest person and respect those community guidelines. So, all right, and this is just a little rundown of the things that work well and in the edit source, the markup editing mode, or the edit beta, which is the visual editor. So you can kind of play around and see what you think works well for the kind of work that you're going to be doing. So in some, the edit source is good for people who are not afraid of markup languages, and you have a lot more power and flexibility. But if you have no interest in markup languages or in learning wiki code, you can totally bypass it, and that's fine. All right, so talk about citing sources, and maybe we'll go into Wikipedia to look at how we cite sources, or maybe somebody wants to demo citing sources. Or actually, I mean, given how many experts we have here, I feel like I've been talking. Okay, talking on and on about how to do these things. Probably the best thing is to just jump in and start doing it. And then if you run into trouble, you want to know how to cite a source, and you can't quite figure it out, you've got a room full of people who can really help you. And having someone look over your shoulder and provide feedback is the best way to learn Wikipedia anyway. Quick note about images, because it's an area that can be confusing. There are two kinds of images that appear on the encyclopedia. The ideal, right, is to have an image that's pulled from Wikimedia Commons. Wikimedia Commons is this repository of free media that populates the encyclopedia and lots of other things. So if you can find an image that is completely free of any restrictions in terms of rights, the best way to get it in your encyclopedia article is to upload to Wikimedia Commons and then reference it. There are cases where you want to show a picture of a thing, but it's not free of rights, but like the article just wouldn't make any sense if you don't show it. Let's say an article about an artwork. You can't write an article about a famous artwork without showing the artwork. So in that case, you can do what's called the non-free image rationale. You can use one copyrighted image one time under a kind of fair use argument, and it's just in that article only. You can't use it around other articles, and you kind of have to make a very strong persuasive argument to the community about why it's okay for me to show this one particular copyrighted work in the context of the encyclopedia. So if you do want to add images to an article you're working on, the first thing you need to figure out is whether there are whether it's free to reuse in terms of rights, and then depending on whether or not it's free to reuse, you choose your tack, either Commons or the non-free upload. Again, there's great experts on that in this room. Last thing I'm going to say is there's this little feature that got added to the edit history tab not so long ago that I really love. So there used to be only one option back here, so I could see, okay, so my friend Sarah Bender was working on this article, and my only way of interacting with her in the article history space used to be to undo her work. That was like my only option. And they added this thank little option that I think makes a huge difference. Like when I log into Wikipedia now and I see that I've been thanked by someone for an edit that I made, it makes me feel really good to know that my contribution's been recognized by another member of the community, and they just took the time to say thank you. It's not a big thing, it's very easy to do, but if you notice you're working on an article, someone worked on it before you and you think they did a good job, or even they did a small thing but it made it better, clicking thank is a great way to bring that positive collaborative spirit to the community. So always thank others for their work, and that's very important.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. That's great. And just a note about the images from archives, most of them are no known copyright restriction status, and there is a template on our page having to do with that, which you can just copy and paste and put in new images.
Did you want to point out specific things? I know you talked about the guidelines for editing articles about women in particular that you had added to the page. I can turn it over to you if you want to.
Yeah, sure. I can bring that up.
Yeah. I thought that was a great resource.
Yeah, I'll just quickly mention there is a professor, Professor Moravec, who has held several editathons on women, and she published a list of things you can do from very simple to more complicated. So it's a great way to get started today if you aren't comfortable delving into the whole process, but just want to get started. So I should have just looked. There we go. So if you go down onto our event page into Wikipedia resources, this excellent ideas for getting started with editing Wikipedia articles about women link. I don't like how our blog is formatted, but in any case, she gives these kind of 4 steps you can do. You can simply start editing other articles about women and try and sort of words into the descriptions. You could insert links on women's pages, which, you know, orphan articles don't get as much attention and stand out as being orphan. So, like, if you know someone who worked with the woman or is, you know, related to the woman, definitely put a link into her article. I like this add men's mothers. So adding men's mothers or wives who worked with them is a great way to insert women into the histories. And let's see what else.
I can take issue with them about, as daughter of a scientist, I think that scientist families are important, regardless what gender they are. And when they say don't add that they were mothers, I'm always fascinated. How did they do it? And there's so many scientific families
hear you.
that I really think that's something we could explore.
All right,
Yeah.
so if
That's a good
it'll be good in the articles about the women scientists as long as they're also in the article about the men scientists. So
That's fine.
let's be
Right.
consistent.
Right. And that is
Yeah,
certainly a
I
problem.
think my personal preference would be like focus on adding next to women's articles, if I'm gonna go that route. But,
Sure.
I
I think that's a really good point. And as a new mother, I do appreciate women doing it all.
It's
So,
interesting to see who people are related to, honestly.
Yeah,
That's just kind of
yeah.
generally interesting to me.
well, we have, you know, brothers and sisters who worked at the Smithsonian together, and just all these connections, and women who didn't have
Normally,
official titles.
there's a family section at the bottom, so feel free to add a family section if it's not there, and say who there were even uncles and aunts. And it kind of does that lets the genealogy creep in, and that's kind of a standard. Encyclopedia Britannica did that way too. They kind of on the tag in, they would say, you know, who they were related to, or other articles of other notable people that they're related to also. So
That's great. Yeah, so there's like a coin section for that.
style guide kind of.
Yeah. The other thing, so related to the Wikipedia Women's Science Project, they have this to categorize women in their articles. So women scientists by field. And let's see what else. Yeah, that was one resource there. But also if you tag, I think they suggested tagging at the beginning of this page, articles that need to be done. So how you can help on this page talks about tagging pages of relevant articles with this banner, the WPWS banner, so they can be automatically added to this page. So that would be a helpful thing to do to our list of articles. If anyone just wants to go in and do all that, I would thank you for sure.
It's already done. That's done on the talk page.
Oh, you already did it on all of them.
Most of them had already been done,
Okay.
but do
Well, that
that
was
for
probably
any that
Sarah's
are
work.
created today
Yeah,
on the talk page.
great. Thanks for noticing that.
And when you see those little curly brackety things, like around WPWS, And those are like, for example, the info box is a template, and it's, think of them as like the widgety parts, the kind of dynamic parts of Wikipedia that are pulling in other areas, maybe a little more sophisticated way of explaining what a template is. But templates do things beyond just, what's apparent.
Yeah, I think we have a template that pulls in all Smithsonian articles that are on various to-do lists.
That sort of leverages the database nature of the wiki.
Yeah.
We use a template.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
If you're going to cite the SIA collection page, like I just put in a little reference for Roxana Judkins Finchfield Ferris,
Okay.
but I wasn't sure. Do you want the reference to go to the SIA page for her? Do you want it to go to the Cirrus record? What's the best way to cite something like that?
That's a confusing ask. I mean, we prefer that it goes to the Smithsonian Archives website rather than the Cirrus page. We have stable URLs that are a little cleaner as well. So yeah, we got to solve that.
Yeah, we've been begging Cirrus to give us like a permanent link kind of button, and they have,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
maybe we can reiterate it.
I will. I'm taking notes on some of the culture issues that are coming up. So
because we use them for other things, we use them especially for sculpture. You know, the sculpture database, and
Save Outdoor Sculpture.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And I'll think about it for our site too. I mean, that shouldn't be such a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
We should be able to do that. So.